This is Prime Sports NASCAR on Prime Sports Network as we are through another crazy road race, but this is a good one. And it's becoming one of the better ones, especially when you throw rain into it.
Yeah.
I mean, we were praying for the rain, boys, and we got our wish. Now, Chase Elliott, the favorite of the race, of course, still goes on and wins, which by the way, we all enjoyed because our bankroll really needed it big time. So, CJ, you're the last one that needs to get over the plus mark, but we're two of us are over the plus, so you're coming on strong. So that was a big deal for us. So we liked Elliott winning. Don't get me wrong, but it was also really cool to watch a lot of cars that were just 1 second they're in first place, the next second they're on the infield and they spin out for whatever freak reason. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I think it proved that you don't have to have a monsoon. Like Saturday's race was your.
Gonna say, thankfully we didn't have the Xfinity race.
Yeah, but the Cup guy, Denny Hamlin made a good point. Saturday's race, the Xfinity race, was just
really.
It was like driving in a flood.
Oh, because of the rain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think what was it, lap 9, lap 8? I remember made a note. And I was like, I think like there's 7 different wrecks in the same lap, and then 2 guys went off course in the tire
what was
barriers.
Wrong with that? That would have been even funner.
Oh,
it was a crazy, long, drawn out race.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They were hydroplaning all over the place. It was so dark. I'm surprised anybody could even see through the windshields, let alone the fogginess. But because of the dark everywhere,
it was
on the infield. There were no lights. There were puddles, standing water. It was really treacherous conditions for them.
It was embarrassing. Yeah, if that would have happened Sunday, they wouldn't have rained. They would have red flagged it and waited. But I thought Sunday worked perfect because it rained before, made the track wet, but it wasn't raining. I think it goes to what I think CJ said this a month or a couple of months ago about an option tire. This was the perfect race with the slicks, the wets. How long do you stay on one to the other? It's still wet, but might go on to the slicks. So it helped Ty Dillon, and then he went off course a couple times later. But the option tire and the strategy, like we talked about, like with IndyCar and F1 uses, this show that NASCAR needs that. I think if they can figure out a way, they've got 6 road courses now, so you can do it on there.
They have to figure out something because with 6,
because like IndyCar does, they've had the Firestone Reds, which is a faster tire. You could go a lot quicker on these, but they're going to wear so much faster. That way, the guys on the primary, the Firestone Blacks, they're not as fast, but they last longer. So you got to manage. All right, I could go to the Reds. I'm quicker early. How can I manage them where I don't lose too much? Where the Blacks are, hey, how can I stay the course and go longer? And that's where you have to run one of each during the race.
Okay.
You have to at least.
And what do they have now? It's just rain tires or no rain tires?
Rain tires are slicks, and Ty Dillon was the perfect example of an option tire making a difference. Like, he's not a guy that you would typically expect to race toward the front of a road course, let alone most tracks. But because he made the call to go on, made the gamble to go on to slick tires before anybody else, he was significantly faster and he charged through the field. And that's what the difference would be between having a prime or harder tire that lasts an entire stint, maybe even longer, and some really fast degrading high grip tire. That would be the perfect case as an example for doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he went 27th to first.
Yeah.
Just in a couple laps. I mean, that's like, IndyCar doesn't have this yet. I wish NASCAR can maybe develop this. Can we do this on an oval? Like CJ, I think, talked last week about making the tires degrade more. Maybe having the one degrade faster than the other, and you have to run on both over a run. So your fuel run may last 70 laps. My primary tire can easily make that. My shorter tire, I might have to pit. I might lap some people, but I know I have to pit. Now, can I get a quicker? You throw strategy in it. It creates passing. I think that would help some of the racing. Maybe an option tire is the answer to all this until we get the aero thing figured out, because Sunday was a prime example. I think you saw the guys bouncing between the slicks and the wets.
And you didn't know what was going to happen until the point. I mean, even Chase, what happened? What did he get? He had to go. Was it a penalty?
Loose wheel.
Okay, loose wheel. Yep. That's right. So he's a loose wheel. So and I'm freaking going crazy because I have my my usual bets on going on, and Elliott looked like he was primed for another nice easy road course win, and then he's at the loose wheel. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And then all of a sudden, within I don't know what half hour's time or something like that, he's back in the top 5.
Yep.
And at that point, you're like, oh, okay, he's going to pass these guys because you could already tell that he had fresher tires, and it was just a matter of time. And as soon as he got in the lead, you kind of knew it was all over. But still, based on what happened during the day, and I know it wasn't slick later on, you were still kind of, all right, let's just see what happens. But Chase it's just incredible how he keeps dominating these races.
Yeah, I mean, 4 in a row. He's entering Jeff Gordon territory now, and like Logano said on the Zoom call afterwards, the race, that like, look, he's in a class all by himself. Like, it's not even close. What his teammates do. I mean, they've got similar package setups, all that kind of stuff, and he's like, look how much better he is than they are. I mean, he's doing something right, and
Logano had a good race.
Niche.
That was a good race for Logano.
Needed for him. Yep.
So did Eric Jones.
Yeah.
Looky there again.
Another 100 points wasted from Eric Jones.
Yeah, right out the door. Yep, and he's going to be the sleeper. If Blaney can keep this going, I think this is going to be an odd round that you usually see the playoff or championship eligible guys win out. I mean, there's a reason the cream rises at the top, but this could be the round, though. You got Jones, Blaney, and Kyle Busch now on the outside looking in with some very good tracks for them this round. So,
I was the only one to put money on Jones on Sunday. What happened to you guys?
He's not typically a good racer.
Not on a road course.
No, I mean, but that was the thing. On the road course, we talked about it last week. The only reason I put money on Jones last week is just because he's been he's been good on racetracks he hasn't even done well before at. He's just performing incredibly well. And now he goes to a racetrack this week that he actually does really well. So to me, that was a no-brainer. I was surprised you guys didn't put a little bit of money on Jones this week.
I just played the round of 8 game this week to see what it went with, just because I feel like
all the playoff drivers.
Yeah, it just seems like we're due for one of those races. Like last week, it seemed like early it was all non-playoff drivers. Granted, some moved back up, but yeah, I almost did. But now that I'm on the good side of the profit, I'm like, he could still win and ruin this all for me, but also try to spread it around a little bit to where I could stay above that.
If anybody's going to ruin it for you, it's going to be Eric Jones.
Oh, it's going to be him. Exactly. So. That's why
he's only led 3 laps here though, so you got that going.
He'll lead one more, the final lap on Sunday.
Hey, how about him passing Kyle Busch? Just not even caring. Hey, I know you're my teammate now, but you're not next year, so I'm going around you. And I think that made a little bit of a statement. He could have rode behind him and blocked for a little bit, kept some guys at bay, but he didn't care. He still went around him. So I applaud him for that.
Yeah, another disastrous result for Kyle Busch in a disastrous season. And Elliott was one of your drivers. So he's the only driver in your fantasy team to pick up wins this year. But now the points really start growing. So you even have a chance if your drivers, somebody can get hot. Unfortunately, Elliott's the only playoff driver you have. So, But hey, you know what? If he can remain hot this week, and you put some money on Elliott to win this week, you're the only one to do that. So we'll see if he can keep the hot streak going. And as I mentioned, Logano finished a solid second, and Byron. Were you surprised at Byron leading 27 laps?
I was, to be honest with you. I mean, he's got the same equipment, kind of like you talked about with Chase Elliott. So there's something that he's learning there. And he's one of the ones, we've talked about it a few times, that's kind of grown up on iRacing and the simulator. So no doubt that he's kind of got the pedigree, but I would have thought haven't really seen it from him yet that I can recall, that he's come out on a road course and really been able to challenge. And maybe that was a fact of Chase Elliott being further down the order with the loose wheel or something like that. But I think, if he keeps that up, he's certainly going to be one to challenge Chase Elliott on the road courses in the future, without a doubt.
It would be nice. And we need those young drivers to really pick things up, but he won't have Chad Knaus next year. So
Right.
He only has what? How many more races Knaus has now? 4 more to go for
Four.
Knaus
That's it.
and
Four.
for Jimmy.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
And I would be curious. Can we at least put Knaus with Jimmy on for Phoenix? Just
why not?
what more do you have to lose now? Let them go out together. It's what gain do you have by keeping him with Byron? I don't know why Cliff Daniel. They don't know what car he's going to do next year, but I don't know why you just don't say, hey, we're going to pay you the same. Maybe go learn with Chad over here, with Johnson again. But let's just go ahead and let's swap this now. I don't know why Byron isn't getting his crew chief for next year now, so they can get
that's true.
half more races
right?
to learn together. I mean, what do you have?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
You're
You're right about that, because Jimmy's not going to be there next year. So what does that matter for his crew chief? And the same thing with Chad. I mean, yeah, why not?
And then Chad and Jimmy can go out together.
Somebody asked the question.
Yeah, if they were on the Zoom, I wish they would. It's like, hey, just quick question. I mean, there is no practice or qualifying other than like 5 or 6 races next year. Why don't you do the switch now so you can start working on 2021 now? Screw the finishes at this point. It doesn't matter. You're not going to win. Let's just be honest. It's not. He's won once in like 100 starts.
I know, right?
You're not going to win these next 4.
On the call, though.
Yeah. Hey, you're not going to win. And you've won once in 100 starts. But yeah, no, I'd probably word it a little different. But yeah, why not get a head start? I would be curious if Kyle Busch, I hope he finishes in the top 5 and he gets on the Zoom, because I'd be curious his thoughts on working towards 2021, because he's won every year for 15 straight years. And I doubt, yes, he's got some good tracks here, but he may not win.
Yeah,
and he already said on the Zoom call after the race that, I don't think I'm going to win.
I don't think he's going to win either.
So why not work for 2021 too? Why not just throw setups aside? Even if the setup doesn't work, you know what direction not to go in next year. Because that seems to be things that's hurt them is lack of practice. Well, use these next 4 races as just straight up practice sessions. Just, hey, you know what? This is a 1.5 mile track. We may not even do a setup for this track. We might test something else, finish 25th, but we've got a notebook full of data to come back with next year. So, if I were these guys not in championship eligible anymore, I would start focusing 2021 now.
Another boring 1.5 mile track is upon us on Sunday. Before we get to that, we haven't talked about our futures for a while. Financially, things have gone up quite a bit. Eric has just gone crazy with his money situation, but I can see why. Right now, though, I'm still like way ahead. And as far as how much I've invested, but it really doesn't matter. All that matters is winning compared to what you've invested in. And I have 2 drivers that I have a shot at. Chase Elliott, right now I could make $53,000 if he wins the championship. Hamlin, I can make $44,000. I'm hoping, of course, that Harvick maybe doesn't win these next couple of races. The odds go up a little bit, and then I can go ahead and throw a little bit of money on Harvick to hedge my bet. That's kind of how I've worked it the last couple of weeks. CJ, you've invested the least, right about $100,000, and Truex and Hamlin, you could pretty much make a couple thousand on either of the drivers. Elliott, you're about 15, 20,000 off on. No Kevin Harvick in sight, and Eric. You also, all 3 of us really are in bad shape if Kevin Harvick wins the championship. And that's just because of his odds were so low for so long that it got too low too quick. And we just didn't have a chance unless we went all in and just said, yep, we're going all in on Kevin. And you can't do that, because even if Kevin Harvick makes it to the Phoenix and he has a tire go down, that's it, and you've just wasted all your money on one driver. Eric, you have you just keep putting money on Joey Logano because I don't know. I mean, you do realize this isn't real money, right?
I do.
This is over. You got over 130,000 now if Logano wins. So maybe you want to really make a statement if Logano
bring it back.
wins.
Yeah. Well, he's 10-1.
Yeah, the odds are big.
12-1. I'm like,
yeah,
why not? Let's just keep building this thing up. So, yeah, I just everything that it's like I'm taking it out on not being able to go Hamlin Harvick anymore. So it's like I'm gonna go this way with it. So,
well, we might have to think about if maybe we'll have to think about moving the money from this year to next year. That could be something that we could even think about too.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Truex, you're up about 40,000 on Truex. So you got Logano, Truex. You've got Keselowski. You're about 8,000 up on Keselowski. Elliott and Hamlin, you have a shot at if you can, especially Elliott, because his odds are still pretty good. Even though you're about 30,000 down, 40,000 down on Elliott, but his odds are still good enough where you can make some ground. Hamlin, it all depends on whether his odds get better. Maybe they will if Harvick wins and Hamlin doesn't. But yeah, if Harvick wins, like I said, we're all in big trouble. But we all at least do have drivers in contention for a payday at the end of the year. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's better than the big three that it's been his last few years, and it's kind of like, hey,
right.
We all either had just like one
it
driver coming at this point,
yes.
So it has helped now that it's. Especially, it'd be nice if Harvick doesn't win this round because that's going to help. But also can't figure out if I want him to just go ahead and win and get it over with, and then maybe his odds, couple of bad races, the Vegas people won't be paying a lot of attention. Like, oh man, he's going off.
No, they won't.
2 30th place finishes.
No,
but
forget about that.
He's probably 2-1
if he wins. If he wins on Sunday, those odds are probably going to be like you'd be lucky if they're even. I think.
Yeah. He's going to be minus. He's in the minus category.
So if anybody has any ideas about Kevin Harvick, you better do it now while you're getting a little bit over even the money. Okay, Kansas Speedway is a 1.5-mile tri-oval. And if you take a look at it, the last 4 winners at this track did not start. Only one of the last 4 winners started inside the top 10. So that means if you start a little bit outside the top 10, you still have a pretty good shot here. But this is really another one of those tracks that's about positioning. It's about restarts. Now, the outside lane is a better restart position. Not to the point where you're completely have no chance if you start inside, but you better be real fast and you better get off to a good start on the inside. You could pass to the outside driver, but again, the chances are kind of low here. The good thing is, guys, is that you can also gamble on 2 tires here. So that's what hopefully will come into play if one of these drivers dominates early.
Yeah, it's a pitch strategy race is what this is going to become. Yes. I mean, Truex told me that a couple weeks ago, asked about why the 1.5 miles are so flukish now. It seems like Truex and same guys won them every year, but now look at the last few winners, like Cole Custer, Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin won, but he used to not be good on them. And he even mentioned that. He's like, I'm not the best at 1.5 mile tracks. And Kurt Busch. And remember, too, Kurt was 13th in Vegas, and he was a 13th to 15th place car. He ran the final stint long, hit the jackpot. The caution came out, and he cycled. He was already in the lead, and nobody could pass him.
30 laps, and nobody could pass him.
So that's what you're going to get. I mean, I was looking right here, the stats. Last year, both races went to overtime. You remember back in July, we had a late race caution, and for whatever reason, Bowman and DiBenedetto went bonehead moves with their last pit stop and went from top 2 to outside of it. And I think you're going to see that again this weekend. You're going to have a late race caution. So it's going to be about positioning yourself and that coming to the final stop. Do you run it long, or do you just, hey, I'm just going to stick with the playoff guys and do what they do? Or like if I'm Kurt and Alex Bowman and those guys like that are, I probably need to win. I'm running as long as I could. Granted, it's going to screw you if a caution doesn't come out, but the stats show a caution's probably going to come out. So it's timing that and making sure you have the right pit call, because you don't want to pit too early and then stay out, and then you're on older tires or somebody might take 4. And so it's going to be one of those, I think, I hate to say this being on a NASCAR show, but you might want to just tune in the last 50 laps, because everything before that's not going to really matter a whole lot.
Yeah, if the caution doesn't time itself well, if you don't get that late race caution, it has all the opportunity to have somebody just come out and dominate. But like Eric said, with the late race cautions, the ability to use 2 tires and make up track position, and then the restarts, as you talked about, Greg. That's what kind of throws the wrench into the mix here. But if you absent those cautions, you end up with somebody coming out and completely dominating the entire afternoon.
Harvick, since we made our official picks on Tuesday, has moved into the lead as far as the favorite this week. They were 4-1, Hamlin and Harvick a couple of days ago. Harvick's now at 3-1. You guys put money on Harvick. I stayed away from Harvick. And you look at him, and he has been the more dominant of the 2 drivers over the last several years. You look at it, Harvick has 10 top 10s in his last 14 races there, 8 of those top 5s, 3 runner-ups, and 3 wins. He was 4th in July. During that stretch, he's led an average of 55 laps a race, 781 total. Some of the similar tracks, the 1.5-mile tracks for Harvick this year, 8th and 10th in Vegas, 4th in Kentucky, 1 Atlanta, and 5th in Texas. So, now that the road course is away and Talladega is away, you do get the feeling that, okay, it's probably time for Kevin Harvick to show his mettle again.
I think that's exactly the case. And he's been so dominant, like you said here before. There was a stretch of, it seemed like 12 races, maybe even longer, where he had 50 laps led at a minimum every single time he came here, starting from pole frequently, finishing in the top 5 and winning frequently. So, yeah, I think he knew he was going to get through the last round, which was the wild card round in the playoffs, and coming up to this round, all incentive to be able to get it out of the way and make sure that you're in the Final Four for Phoenix, one of your best tracks.
Denny Hamlin, even though he hasn't had a dominant run like Harvick, he has won the last 2 races. And, he's got 3 wins in 24. And, has he won the last 2 or what? 2 out of the last 3?
Yeah.
The last 2.
No, he won the playoffs. Yeah, okay. Yeah, playoff in the spring.
First in July, right? Led 57 laps. First last October. Led 153 laps. And he hasn't really done much. I mean, he's 3rd in one of the Las Vegas races. So, I looked at that, and it really, for me, was, okay, I got to take one or the other. And I just decided to go with Hamlin because, well, he's won the last 2. And also, I got to make a pick. And Hamlin's been my pick all year, and I'm going to stick with it. And maybe, Hamlin does seem to have a little bit more momentum than Harvick lately, but I just don't think that really matters all too much. But, just the fact that he's won the last couple of times here, and it is going to be important, I think, for any of these championship drivers to try to get that win right away.
Yeah, you're going to want to go ahead and just stamp your name to the championship 4 and then not have to worry because, let's look at it. Let's face it. Hamlin's won 2 in a row here, and Harvick's won the last 3 playoff races next week at Texas. So they've won half the races this year. They've won literally half the races in the playoffs, 15 of the 28 during the pandemic. So you would say, yeah, first 2 races, why not the top 2 guys advance on? But you also got to look, like you said, the only top 5s combined that they've scored in the playoffs are their wins. They kind of seemed like dipped a little bit in performance. I don't know if that's just because they're being maybe a little more conservative. You had a couple short tracks, a Roval, a super speedway, but if they're going to turn it on, it seems like this is the time to turn it on. But the weird thing is you got to be thinking they're rooting for each other because if, say, Denny Hamlin doesn't win this round, he definitely needs Kevin Harvick too, because we know if 3 other guys below them.
Yeah, you don't want a guy that's from the outside to take one of their spots that is theirs.
Yeah, because if you look at the standings right now, the bottom half guys have more momentum than the top half guys. Say Kurt Busch or Alex Bowman still win this round, you could essentially have Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick, if they don't win, battling for that wild card spot. You don't want to be going head to head against each other yet. You want to wait until Phoenix, because if so, one of them might be out. You can't advance both if you have three other winners. So they kind of have to be rooting for each other, hoping that, hey, if I don't win, I've got such a big cushion. Like Hamlin's got 32 points to the good. He's 27 points ahead of Chase Elliott right now, as far as just points go. So no, but if he does top 5s, he's going to be fine. But he's 13 points below Kevin Harvick, and we've seen what Kevin Harvick's capable of. Do you want to go against him head to head for that 4th spot, the wild card spot to the championship for, or would you rather, hey, I'd rather him win and battle these other guys for that spot?
Yeah.
So that's going to be something worth looking
Unless,
at.
of course,
right now,
first and second, and they're battling for the win. That's a different story.
I think it would be a great story either way. If they don't win, like, ooh, one of these guys isn't making it to the championship for. Or if they both win, everybody else, you can kind of throw a blanket over. It might be a great fight at Martinsville, knowing that, hey, this isn't like, I feel like the cut line of the first 2 rounds here have just, let's be honest, they haven't really delivered because the bubble has been so far ahead of everybody below it. Maybe this is the round that, okay, this is pretty even. Now we've got 5 points between Elliott and Logano. I don't see a lot of guys distancing themselves. So Martinsville may finally give us what we've been searching for these playoffs and some drama going to a cutoff
And if
race.
one of these 2 drivers were to have some sort of disaster happen to them in this race, where are they next week? Are they pretty much like right there at the cutoff line, and they have more than enough time to still take care of business?
I think they each got a mulligan. I think they each have, nobody else does, but
they both have a mulligan.
Especially,
okay.
Yeah, I think they both have a mulligan to stay above. They're right there, but that's it. You got one.
Sure. Where it should be.
Now it's like,
but just one.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, these first 2 tracks are good for him, but you got to look. Kevin Harvick, if you get to Martinsville, he's got 2 top 5s in his last 16 starts there. No laps led in his last 8 Martinsville races. Wow. So it's not guaranteed Kevin Harvick's advancing on. I mean, there's a path that Kurt Busch and Bowman one of them could win this weekend. Then you got next week. I mean, Logano's good.
How's Harvick in Texas?
He's won 3 straight playoff races.
I don't think he has to worry about
that. He's really good. 12 straight top 10s, 4 top 2s his last 6. So the best at Texas. But again, what happens if a tire blows? What happens if something takes him out? There's a path now that I think you could pretty much have Sharpied Hamlin and Harvick to this point. But now moving forward, it's all right. The pressure's on. This is I'd say for them, it's like, all right, you played your 4 NFL preseason games. Now it's time to go.
Harvick, when was the last time he won a championship?
14. It's the only time he's done it.
So you see, that's 7 years ago, 6 years ago? Yeah, so you're looking at a situation where, I would guess 90%? I don't know who comprises his team the last time he won, but did he have the same crew chief? Okay.
Yeah. That was their first year together.
So everybody else, I wonder how many of those guys are still with them.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And maybe
probably a lot.
More than half, less than half. And there's probably at least a number of guys that haven't been there before. So you don't know how they're going to – it only takes one bad screw up by one guy in the pits that just can't handle the pressure. So –
yeah, that's how close this is. And hey, you also got, you got 3 Chevys of the 8, so they got numbers on their side. But a Chevy hasn't been the championship for since Jimmy Johnson won the championship. So do they get shut out again, or do they rise to the occasion? And these aren't necessarily the greatest tracks for these guys. Kurt Busch is consistent, but he's got no top 5s at Texas since 2011. He's got 4 top 10s in his last 28 starts at Martinsville. So is this Sunday a must win for him? I mean, so you got some implications here that's deeper levels as you keep going. So, there's a lot at stake here this weekend for these guys.
Speaking of Chevy, Eric, you were the only driver to go, the only one to go with Chase Elliott. But he does have 4 top 5s in his last 6 races here, including a runner-up, a win in 2018. He was 12th in July. If you take a look, he's kind of been hit or miss on these tracks this year because his results at Vegas were terrible, but he won 3 stages at Vegas this year. And he was runner-up in the Coke 600 and then won the race at Charlotte a few days later. So there's a lot there to like about Chase Elliott. Of course, it's always hard to win back-to-back weeks.
And the speed's there. You can see the speed's coming back. And you look at what he's been doing on the season, it's like, all right, now you're there. And, look, he's been to the round of 8 3 straight years now. It's time, like, all right, NASCAR's most popular driver. It's trying to get to the championship 4.
Yeah, the road course was gifted to you. You're an awesome road course. That was an easy one, but now can you do it when you have to wind up racing with the big boys on tracks that these guys, some of them are historically better than you?
Yeah, and I think this is the aggression. It seems like there's a little bit different Chase Elliott right now compared to years past, and he's going to have to be aggressive. We've talked about this years ago, that how he wasn't as aggressive on restarts as he should be. He gave too much or didn't give enough. He gave too much and didn't take. Well, now this is going to be the race you're going to have to do that, because right now he's 5 points to the good. This isn't necessarily a great track for Joey Logano. But you don't want to fall below the cut line going to Texas either.
How's Elliott at the other two?
I got it right here. His last 3 finishes at Texas are 13th, 32nd, and 12th.
That's no good.
He hasn't had a top 5 since his rookie year there. He was 5th and 4th, and then since 9th, 8th, 11th, 6th, 13th, 32nd, and 12th.
Martinsville?
5 top 10s his last 7.
Okay. So Martinsville, he's got a much better shot. He doesn't want to put himself in a pressure situation, though, but he's got it in his back pocket in case he needs it. He's got some good history there. But this is as good as it's going to probably get for Chase out of these 3 races.
Yeah, because you look at Martinsville, Gibbs and Penske have combined to win, I think, like the last 6 of 7 or 7 of 8.
Okay.
And I looked; they've put 4 cars in the top 5 at that track. I think 5 of the last 6 races there for Gibbs and Penske. It's kind of everybody else is playing for 5th on back.
Okay.
And hence Chase being 5th.
By the way, who would you have taken since you have both Elliott and Truex? You went with, let's see, Eric. You went with Eric, you went with Hamlin, Elliott, and Truex. So out of those 3, who's your top 1
for this weekend? Truex.
We haven't even talked about Truex yet.
Yeah.
And he's your top 1. Okay. And then let's see. DJ, you've gone with Harvick, Hamlin, and Truex. Same amount. So who would you go with?
Harvick, but of the other 2 that we're talking about, I agree with Eric. It would be Truex. 44 laps led, 3rd in 2020 earlier this season, 33 laps led last season, finished 6th. Prior to that, just a 19th place spot, but the 4 before that were all top 5s, 2 of them being wins. So I think he's got a lot to prove. He's been kind of quiet over the past couple of weeks. Exact same thing we said about Harvick. Now that we're back kind of out of this wild card round, it's time to really show what you got, turn it on. And I think Truex knows he needs to do that. He's been overshadowed all season. This is a track that he can get it done at.
Okay. Yeah, you had 4 drivers between 4-1 and 5-1. And I just, that's why my way of thinking was Hamlin's my top guy. I'm using Harvick as okay. I need to throw him in there because he's just too good in my mind, compared to Truex and Elliott over a longer stretch. But I couldn't play them all, and none of us can play them all. Eric, you left Harvick out, and CJ, you left Elliott out. So you guys got an extra driver than I did out of the 4. I just went with 2 of the 4, Harvick and Hamlin. Eric, you went with Hamlin, Elliott, Truex. CJ, you went with Harvick, Hamlin, and Truex. So, all right, Truex. Then Eric, 3rd in July, 4th in Las Vegas, 2nd at Kentucky, swept this racetrack in 2017. The thing that I'm concerned with Truex is the fact that he hasn't won a lot of races this year. It's just all of those 2nds and 3rds. I talked about this before the playoffs started. I felt eventually that would have to cool off, and he has cooled off a little bit. It's asking somebody to sustain that for so long is just really hard. And but we'll see. I mean, if he has a real chance at getting a championship done, you would think he's got to win this race.
Yeah, this is the one. I mean, you got to look too. Like, this isn't. Yes, Hamlin's won 2 in a row, but this isn't the best track for him. You've already kind of eliminated Kyle Busch from the equation. Kevin Harvick's admitted that these type of tracks right now aren't his strong suit. The way Kansas is shaped, he's like, I can probably get a top 5, but we're not race winning pace there yet. I mean, we struggled on those. those tracks. So I feel like Truex is ahead of him at Kansas right now. Keselowski's good in the spring there, but he's not good in the playoff race. Logano's terrible at Kansas. Kurt Busch is your top 10 machine, but let's be honest, he doesn't have race-winning pace outright. Chase Elliott, I don't feel like – I mean, he could win the race if he gets lucky. He's won at Kansas a few years ago, but I don't think he's got Truex right now in terms of overall speed.
I just like the fact when you're talking about those two, and I would have taken Elliott over Truex if I was choosing between the two. I just like the fact, even though Elliott has gobbled up wins at other types of racetracks, I just like the fact that you have that feeling of I've won 4 times this year compared to Truex 1.
Yeah, and I would agree, but I just feel like with Truex right now, he's got all those second and third and fourth place finishes, and he's lost to those guys that I mentioned. And I don't feel like for this week, maybe they're going to be ahead of him. I think Truex, we're waiting for that breakout Truex performance. Plus, you got to look, I believe it was 12 of the last 15 races on a 1.5 mile track has been a new winner. We've had a new winner every race except one this year on it, and somehow Truex hasn't won that. So the trends favor him to win this week. So, yeah, I feel like we're waiting for it because Texas, he's never won at. He's been solid, but he's never won at Texas. Martinsville would probably be his best shot of this round, but do you really want to go to Martinsville needing to win? I feel like him, Elliott, and just him and Elliott and Logano, those three are probably going to be battling for your 4th spot if all goes without them winning. So why not get the win now?
Okay.
Get it early. So I feel like and we've seen Truex drive aggressive when needed, and I just feel like Toyota's been good at Kansas, and I think he can get it done this weekend.
All right, so again, my top pick out of the 4 is going to be Hamlin. Eric, yours is going to be Truex. And CJ, did you say Truex or Harvick?
I said Harvick.
Okay, that's good. We got 3 different drivers.
Okay.
The only one we did not take was Elliott as our top choice. So again, Hamlin, Truex, and Harvick. We all have one of those 3 as our top driver. Okay, now let's go to everybody else because, as you guys have mentioned, we could see someone that's not a favorite that wins the race. And nobody took Keselowski, Blaney, or Logano. So 8-1, 10-1, 12-1. Keselowski won this race twice, including last year. He won the Coke 600 this year. He was second in this race in July, leading 30 laps at this track in July. Blaney hasn't done well here the last 3 races. He was 3rd in both Charlotte races, not the road course, and 4th in Atlanta. Logano's got 2 wins here over his career, crashed in July, and like Blaney, hasn't had good results the last 3. But Logano does have a win in Vegas in February and 3rd in Texas. If you had to take one of these 3 drivers, CJ, who would it be?
Honestly, right now I would choose Logano. I think he's got a little bit more momentum on his side. I agree with Eric in who he thinks are going to be fighting it out for that 4th spot, but I would replace Elliott with Keselowski because I think Keselowski can come up in Texas or Martinsville. But of the Penske guys for this weekend, specifically at Kansas, Logano's got more momentum on his side. He led 27 laps here before crashing out, started on the front row. So I think he's going to be up there leading laps again. And I think Keselowski's time to shine is going to be later in the round.
Eric?
I agree. The reason I didn't mention Keselowski, I agree with you, CJ. He was my 3rd driver. I feel like he's the 3rd one in. I actually went push with the top 3 going on to the championship 4, and then between those 3 for the 4th spot. So I agree with you. But I agree with you too. I think Logano, I mean, you look at I had it here in my notebook. Yeah, right here. Keselowski's got 1 top 5 in his last 11 races on the season. And he's mentioned that these 550 horsepower tracks aren't their forte. He's better off when they're on short tracks on the 750s. So which Martinsville could help him out for that. And Logano seems to be heating up, 9 top 10s his last 12. He was running good in July. He just got caught up in that wreck in turn 2. So yeah, the finishes haven't been there at Kansas for Logano, but on the season he's kind of got it going around. And he said he feels like they've got the 550 package down now with him and Paul Wolfe. So I trust him more than Keselowski right now.
It's interesting because we talked about how you just get the feeling like Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney's just forget it, not going to win. And on Sunday, he's got the lead. at a track where he's won before, and you just felt he ain't winning this race. I mean, it's just there was. Whereas before, when things were going so well, if he had the lead, you would have been like, "Oh, that's it. Ryan Blaney's going to win the race now. He's in control." So it just shows you when things are not going well. I don't know. What did happen when he spun out? Was that just he spun out and that was it, or was there a particular reason he spun out last week?
For Blaney, I think he got a little wide, and it was still a little damp over there.
And I
know
right
some guys he slid right. It's kind of just like your one-way ticket into the grass, and he was pushing it a little hard. I think he could have. When he came out of the apex of the corner, he just went that way, and those slicks are slicks. Like, I think Parker Kligerman, finally, NBC, getting the guys at the track, did a great example of pouring the water on the tires before the race and showing you what they do. And a slick tire, because they don't have tread on them, and you hit water, you're going to slide on off like you did. So I think it was just a mistake. I mean, it happens.
Sure,
it happened to a lot of guys. So
and when things aren't going
I can't blame them.
Yep.
There's just one of those things to pile it on. So that's all it was.
Kyle's 12-1, but he's only won once in 25. And how would this be the time where he'd win a second time? Bowman and Kurt Busch are 20-1. Eric, you took both of these drivers. I took Bowman. Kurt Busch has never won here, but he has 8 top 10s in his last 11. And he has 7 top 10s on 1.5-mile tracks this year, including the win in Vegas. Bowman was 8th here in July, 11th or better in 5 of his last 6 at this track, including a runner-up last year while he led 63 laps. So that's why Bowman is my top sleeper. Who would be your top sleeper out of the 2 that you chose?
Probably Bowman. I feel like he could win this race on outright speed. Where Kurt, be honest, he's going to need another pit call. I feel like he's a top 10 car this week, not a 13th or 15th, but I think he's going to need a pit call and some track position to get him to the lead. Where Bowman, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, he's improving. I think him and Kurt are playing with house money at this point anyways. I don't think anybody's expected them to make the championship 4, but here they are in the round of 8, and it's going to need a win, so why not go for it? And those 2, you look at what they've done here on the season lately, and gosh, where'd it go? They had it right here. Kurt Busch.
By the way, as he's looking for that, let me ask you a question, CJ. A Bowman who's moving over to Johnson's car. That's the deal, right? It's Bowman's taking Johnson's car next year. Why is that?
Yep.
Why doesn't he just stay at 88? What's the deal? Is that sponsorship?
Yeah, 48's got sponsorship locked in, so move Alex Bowman over, bring somebody new that brings potentially sponsorship to the team, bring that into the car. But I think they announced, I'm not sure how many years that deal was for, but it's a multi-year deal beyond Jimmy Johnson being in that car, so shift him over for the sponsorship.
Is that also going to play a lot into who winds up getting the ride? Because
I think so. Quite heavily. I think at this point, no matter, I'll basically, not all the top seats are taken. Obviously, this is one of the top seats, but in order to get that, you've got to bring more to the table than just your stellar abilities. You've got to have some kind of sponsorship in it to be able to get there as well, because all the top drivers, except for maybe Eric Jones, might be the only one. Or maybe an Austin Cindric, but he's already got his deal. But those would probably be about the only ones that would be able to come into the team that they're in currently and be able to get a ride without bringing extra money to the table.
What'd you find out, Eric?
Yeah. Oh, so how about Bowman replacing? Hey, if you're going to retire, put Bowman in the car. Dale Jr. And Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Talk about pressure. So he's got 6 top 10s his last 8 on the season. He only had 4 in his previous 23 starts. Kurt's got 2 top 5s in his last 3. He had 1 top 5 in his 21 starts before that. So they're starting to heat up, but I feel like Bowman with those 6 top 10s, he's got the car to win. We've seen Hendrick have success in the past at that track. So if I were him and Greg Ives, I'd do a little bit of a pitch strategy thing, just because you don't want to be going to Martinsville, which isn't one of his better tracks, to need a win. So this is kind of your chips all in moment here at Kansas, and he might as well go big. So I feel like he's got the speed to make up for that.
All right. And as far as the rest of the field, I had 3 other sleeper picks. I picked your boy again, Eric Jones. I also put a little bit of money on Byron and Di Benedetto. And I figured, why not Jones again? 25-1, 5th in July, 5 straight top 10s at this track, including 3 top 5s. Like you said, though, CJ has only led 3 laps in 8 career races, but in the playoffs and 6 playoff races, he has 5 top 10s and 4 top 5s. Just imagine where he could be if he was in the playoffs racing like that. And then Byron, 10th in July, led 27 laps, 5th last October, 6th and 4th in his last 2 races at 40-1. And Di Benedetto, even though he's never had a top 10 here, he was 2nd in both Las Vegas races and 3rd in Kentucky. And of course, he's hanging around the last few weeks. So that's the reason I went with those 3 drivers. Who would you have chosen out of those 3 if you had to pick one, CJ?
Byron, he definitely, for me, 10th place earlier in the year, 27 laps led, 5th place fall of last year in this race. The first 2 races he was here out of his 5-race career, he crashed out, so we don't know what he could have done. But every race he's finished at this track, he's led a lap at. So for me, Byron.
Eric?
This sounds weird going against Byron and Jones because they've got the stats, but I'd say Di Benedetto only because he, like you said, he finished 2nd in Vegas. They're not afraid to push the issue for pit calls. He was running good in July. He just got caught up in that wreck in turn 2, that same one Logano did. And I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being the top Penske Alliance car in the finishing order on Sunday, just because we know a late caution is going to happen and they're going to gamble. They always do. So I feel like they may not be ahead of Jones and Byron for 95% of the race, but you're going to look at the finishing order and be like, where the hell did he come from again? So I feel like he can do that as long as the caution comes out.
Okay. And as far as the rest of the field, Almirola has 7 top 10s, including a 6th in July. Boyer, it's his hometown track. He's retiring too. So this is his last chance to win here at both of those. Well, Almirola 25-1, Boyer 28-1. Also, Jimmy Johnson is 50-1. He's got 3 career wins here. Custer was 7th in July, won the race in Kentucky. Dillon won the race in Texas. He's 80-1. By the way, Custer's 66-1. And anything with any of those drivers or anyone else is worth mentioning, CJ?
Custer passed my mind simply because of the win, and plus he's been able to get himself in position to be able to take advantage of crazy restarts and cautions when they happen. So Custer definitely crossed my mind. I think Jimmy Johnson, maybe if he and Knaus link up for Phoenix, maybe that's some time to take him seriously, but probably not this weekend. Even though he's been fast, I still think he's probably top 10 worthy. But of that bunch, I would look at Custer.
Eric?
I would probably go a guy outside of that, Christopher Bell. He's another long shot that he did good. His first career Xfinity win came at Kansas, and Toyotas are good there. So I would say probably of those, I'd go outside and go a couple rookies with him and Reddick, just because what they've done at the Xfinity side. But other than that, I think it's going to be your favorites up front. The guys we talked about, I think, are going to win this race. And you also got to look at, too, an odd trend. The Stage 2 winner, or the race winner in Stage 2, has finished in the top 5 every race since this stage began, except for 2. They've even won, like this race last year. Denny Hamlin won the second stage, and he was 5th in Stage 2 back in July. So actually, he was 2nd in Stage 1. So if you want to win, you need to finish in the top 10 in Stage 1 and the top 5 in Stage 2. It seems like it's guys that keep rising. So I feel like that heavily favors the playoff guys right now.
What's going on? Race Review Online.net.
Just had a bunch of previews up for the round of 8 and what to look for, and then we'll have race coverage on Sunday.
RotoWire, CJ?
RotoWire.com will have truck, Xfinity, and Cup previews up from a fantasy perspective Friday, tomorrow, Saturday, and then we'll have the race recap sometime on Monday.
Hey, is that a new sponsor, by the way, Eric? VIP?
It's the day job company. It could be. Yes, could be.
Yeah, right. All right. Sounds good, guys. Appreciate it as always. Off to Texas next week.
Yep.
Thank you.